This is one of the rear ends of a Chuck Knapp's Unlimited modified tractor. We've got an agreement with Chuck where we kind of work on his rear ends. We work on gear ratio changes. We service. He keeps a couple of them there, and we kind of rebuild one and send them back to him, and so he's always got something fresh. And we've had really good success with this product, coupled with our oil pump reverser. So one thing about the rear end is that when you're testing products, the highest level horsepower is always the worst on the product. So we've had a lot of trouble with pinion bearings. And sometimes their customers are like, why can't you solve the problem? Well, Ford built several million F-150s and they still have recalls on their vehicles, and they've got a $1 billion engineering team, and they've got lots and lots of resources behind it. We've got like 10 people here, and we got chicken for budget. So we're doing the best we can at solving the problem. We're constantly working on better solutions to keep these things together. And when I'm sitting in the stands at Bowling Green, Ohio, and every single tractor has got one of our differentials or a complete rear end in it, and they go down the track and they don't fail, that's a good day. A lot of times they come back and 3 or 4 of them are junk. We've got to rebuild them for the next week, and it's just part of the tractor pulling, right? But all that technology from the Unlimited Modified trickles down into the other classes, from 2-engine tractors to Pro Stocks to Super Farms to whatever. So Limited Lights even. So kind of with the differential here is, the main failures they have is in the pinion bearing. So the rear pinion bearing is inside here. Let's see the camera this way. So down in here, all the way at the back, the rear pinion bearing takes all that load. From when this thing's driving forward, it's wanting to push that pinion straight down ahead. Well, a lot of guys would want to run their oil level about here in the rear end housing. Picture your rear end dome here, and the oil level's about here. Which is the normal way, that was fine. Well, with the invention of the Mitas tires and Von Bauer sleds that really slam at the end of the track, the load of this thing is accelerated to an unbelievable height now. So when this thing's spinning around like this, at whatever the ratio is you're running, I can't really tell you what Chuck's got because he'd probably kill me, but it's turning fast. Well, this thing acts like a boat propeller. The less oil you have in here, the more oil it begins to pull away from that pinion bearing. No oil on the bearing, a lot of load on it, it's going to fail. So, a couple of things we've done here is increase the level of the oil. That allows it, when it starts pulling oil away from the pinion bearing, there's still some in there, sort of submerge it to keep it so it's got some oil in it. So oil level is very key in any vehicle, not just the Unlimited Modified, to keep your pinion bearings alive. So the same thing in an International 706 rear end. About half the ones that come in here, pinion bearings out. Well, the reason being because they got some pump in the bottom of the case that sucks oil out of it. They might have a gallon in the bottom of their whole rear end that's spraying oil over the top of their gears. Well, nothing's submerged. That thing's under a load, the pinion bearing's tight, there's no oil getting in there submerging it, so it's got constant oil in it, and the pinion bearing fails. Well, then the ring pinion fails. So, oil level is absolutely key to keeping your pinion bearings alive. So, this one here is going to get serviced and changed, gear ratio changed in it, and then it'll go back out again. On the front side, I'm going to show you the oil pump system here. It's a little bit, it's pretty basic. We've got the pump, our reverser design is a straight through coupled deal, bolts right up to the pinion area, the front of the pinion housing, so there's no mounting. And then your drive shaft couples into here. What this type of system allows our oil pump to turn in a forward direction at all times. So whether you're going backwards or forward, the pump is still turning the correct direction. So it can draw oil out of the rear end and pressurize the pinion. Now we take the oil and we pressure feed it into here, so we can get 40, 50, 60 pounds of constant oil pressure on that pinion bearing to keep oil on that bearing to help keep heat and load down. So, many of the Unlimited guys are running this now. It's definitely helping. It's not ideal and perfect, but it's better than putting a pinion bearing in every run. So these things can also be used. Not everybody has to have a pinion pump. We've got these lightweight supers. pro stocks, you know, this and that. But one other thing this particular array here will accomplish is we've got an SQHD bolt pattern here. All right, so many tractors from years and years of building run the SQHD. Well, they're getting harder to get. So we are now building a carrier that allows us to put the SQHD ring and pinions, or the Meritor 20-145 ring and pinion set in an SQHD rear end housing. So it allows us to get different gear ratio combinations, more available gear ratio combinations, smoother operating gears, you know, but the availability is the key. Because some of these ratios with SQHD you just can't find anymore. So we've been working on this project for several years. We've got it pretty well ironed out. Got many guys that are running it successfully. In most new builds, we're going to go with the Meritor 20-145. You know, there's some guys who say, well, you failed it because the gears did. Well, that's kind of right. So it's 9 times out of 10, the pinion bearing fails first because of the oil level. So if you got questions on rear ends, reversers, we put reversers in 706 Internationals and other tractors as well. So these things will fit into different combinations. We make with the same internal guts, we make differentials for John Deere 4010, 4020, 4430, and the IH 706, 1066, and so on and so forth. We've got some of the big block John Deeres. So, you know, they're retrofittable inside to many applications. We keep many of these things in stock. We can assemble within usually 2 to 3 weeks and ship them to your door.